Air Cargo Forum. And we start with one of the most important one, which is around people and why people are important. So I really want to you to enjoy the session. I'm very thankful to start for the support to make it happen. And I'd like to give the floor to Stephen, the chair of TIACA's board, and also the director of cargo and logistics for Brussels Airport. And then we'll move to you guys, Reggie, Jessica, Dorothy, and Steve, for a very interesting discussion on the importance of people. So thank you, everyone, and welcome to the discussion.
Thank you, Celine. And indeed, it's with great pleasure I can welcome all of you to the first session of our first Digital Air Cargo Forum. Normally, we would have gathered, as usual, in person to discuss, learn, and network from each other, with each other. This time, it was planned to be in Miami in November, but reality decided differently, and we all know why. But rather than sitting back and wait till the storm is over, we as TIACA also decided to embrace the new situation and make the best of it. And the same as we are doing in our day-to-day jobs in this industry. And that's why we have created a digital version of our ACF. And we also see the benefits because we can also reach people we probably won't see at our physical events. And that is something we will also take in mind for future events. The TIACA team, together with our partner Stad Media Times, they have prepared a series of 6 webinars over a 2-week period on different topics, and really with a great lineup of speakers we are very proud of. And together with many, I'm looking forward to have the opportunity to interact via the digital possibilities we have today. And I'm sure that once we can meet again in person, we will even appreciate it more than ever, what it means meeting physically. But I also believe that meeting digital is not going to be over and out by then, and that it will find its place in the new way of working, and probably something we can debate as well, how find the balance between what we have learned in the past few months and what we were used to do before. I also would like to thank the teams of TIACA and Stad Media Times for all the hard work they did in preparing this digital ACF in a very short time. You guys really did a great job. And just as in our industry, also on this level, collaboration is important. And I think the way we have collaborated with Stad Media Times as TIACA really shows that together you can really make a difference. So I'm really sure that together we will deliver a great event to the industry. But also a big thanks to our sponsors making this event possible. Even in these challenging times, they have supported our event, and we appreciate that even more than before because we do realize that nothing is taken for granted or could be taken for granted in these circumstances. So thank you very much to all our sponsors. We will really make sure that this event and all the communication afterwards is going to be worthwhile also for your side, and we see it as a long-term investment in partnership and collaboration. The reason why physical meetings will remain important and also why we miss them for the moment is because we are a people's business. And we say that very often. Too often, this is also used as a reason not to change or an excuse to explain why our industry is often lacking behind on acceptance of innovation and technology. But it's a fact. People are important and they can make a difference. They are also essential in a sustainable environment we are aiming for with our industry and which we as TIACA are also really pushing. People is one of the 3 pillars in a sustainable future for our industry. It's people, it's planet, it's profit. So it's really important. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to give the word to Reggie for this first session on this very important topic, people in air cargo. And with the lineup of speakers we have today, I'm really sure that it's going to be a great discussion with great insights. And I look forward myself to follow the rest of the session. Thank you very much. And I wish you really great fun and a lot of learnings in the different sessions and webinars we are going to present to you in the next 2 weeks. Thank you very much. And the floor is back to yours, Reggie. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen, and thanks, Celine. At the outset, I'd like to thank Tiaka for this partnership and the opportunity to moderate what I consider an important topic of discussion, people for cargo. And the topic for our discussion, the subject is make people the center of your strategy for successful transformation and sustainable future. I think the COVID pandemic has dealt a massive blow to the global economy, and aviation air cargo has been, or have the are the two sectors that bear the brunt of the COVID pandemic. At the same time, air cargo also lived up to what we are supposed to be delivering, the critical supplies and maintaining the global supply chains seamless in the last 8 months, and we continue to do that. The world needs the logistics, particularly air cargo, now more than ever. And the biggest assets of this sector are its employees, millions of them, making sure that cargo moves from place to place and ensures the global supply chains are smooth and seamless. The next 45 minutes, I intend to discuss and debate the critical role people plays in the cargo sector with three esteemed speakers from the air cargo industry. And I must say that I'm so proud and honored to have three of them. And in the last 6 or 7 years that I've been writing, covering air cargo industry as a journalist, as a media professional, I had the fortune of talking to each one of them um, formally and informally at several locations and interviewing them. And when I was actually asked to put the speakers for this session, I think this were the three people that came on board as a top priority on my list. And luckily, I got a positive response from each one of them. I'm so pleased to welcome the three esteemed speakers for this particular, which I consider is an important topic of discussion. Uh, Pleased to welcome Dorothea von Voxberg, Chief Commercial Officer and member of the Executive Board Lufthansa Cargo. I'm also happy to, and also like to congratulate her because she's promoted as the Chief Executive Officer of the Lufthansa Cargo. With effect 1st of March 2021, she succeeds Peter Gerber, who is the current Chief Executive Officer of Lufthansa Cargo. Welcome, Dorothea. It's really a pleasure to have you with us on this discussion.
Thank you, Reggie.
Like to welcome Jessica Taylor. She's the President of Cargo and Vice President of Airport Excellence, American Airlines. Another person who was being promoted to the current role not too long ago, I think July 2020 this year, that she actually took up this role. She heads the cargo division of American Airlines, and somebody who has a very keen interest on the way we look at people as an important critical asset for air cargo industry. Jessica, it's a pleasure to have you join us for this discussion.
Thanks, Reggie.
And last but not least, Steve Torrens, Chairman and CEO of ACL Airshop. He's also the founder, president, and CEO of Ranger Aerospace, somebody who has got a lot of passionate interest in the aerospace, defense, aviation industries, somebody who considers, again, people as an important critical part of any organization. And I'm so happy to have Steve for this session. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Reggie.
Okay, with that small introduction and welcome, so I like to keep it as conversational as possible. Just want to get all three of you to a quick comment on how strongly do you believe the topic of our discussion, that is make people the center of your strategy for successful transformation and sustainable future. If you can open up the discussion with what you think is the core important element of your organization when you think about people. Can we start with Dorothea?
Well, I think people, it's about skills, so what they can do, and it's also a lot about attitude. So do people want to work with their customers? Do they want to deliver an impeccable product? And so, well, it won't happen by itself, and especially for air freight. I mean, air freight doesn't move on its own. So you need people to work on it and make it happen. And yeah, that's why I think you're absolutely right. People make the difference.
Jessica?
Absolutely. I think when I think about humans, most of us want to contribute to something bigger than ourselves and know that our value and our worth counts. And so when I think about that at work, that is where we spend most of our time. That is where we spend most of our energy. And so it has to be meaningful. It has to be some connection to a purpose that matters. And I think that that's really at the core of any business, is making sure that you've got a vast group of people that understand where we're going, why we're going there, and how we're going to get there, and how we work together to make it happen.
Thanks, Jessica. Steve?
Sure. We've always been advocates. If you foster a high-performance culture, a lot of good things happen for your customers as the business continues to evolve. When we think about people, we think about motivated professionals with the right stuff. A good aviation term, motivated professionals with the right stuff, who love the industry, who love what the company's doing, who love the teamwork aspect of where they work. That spills over into superior performance every time. Reggie, we're not hearing you.
Thanks, Steve. I like if you would like to kind of pass additional comments, or you would want to come in with your thoughts on any of the discussion points of the other speakers. Please do come in and raise your hand and just share your thoughts. Just want again, Dorothea, if you typically look at in the last 8 months, that's when we really realized the importance of air cargo. And the world realized the importance of air cargo, and with the vaccines, potential vaccines around, once again, the world will be looking at air freight industry very closely. Again, you need to have people. The cargo does not move by its own. You need to have people. As the concept of people, the human resource as in the organization, has that concept changed in the last 8 months very significantly?
Well, I think it goes very much back to what Jessica just said. It's about purpose. And we always had defined the purpose for ourselves, enabling global business. But this year, I mean, it's really gone far beyond that. It's not just enabling global business, but it's really enabling global health, for example. Yeah. So look at all the PPE transports early or second quarter, first quarter this year, but also then now everybody in the industry preparing for the vaccine transports. That really gives a total new meaning to people's jobs, and they feel that it's more important than some of the other commodities they've been working on in the past. So yeah, I think it's a very good sign to our people, to the industry, but also to people reading about us in the press these days, how important it is. And yeah, and you need to invest in it, of course. Yeah. So one thing is to have the right spirit, but you also need to have the right skills, the right processes to be able to really do it. And there I go back to Steve with the high performance culture. I mean, you need to not just want to do it, but also be able to do it in a very good way. And so I think those two things come together.
Jessica, in the last 8 months, how did you keep your team's morale up? I think that's like an important element, because it was a lot of people looked at it as a very hopeless situation. We don't know when this will end. We don't know when the vaccines would come. Vaccines is the only solution that probably would lift us from this current crisis. So how did you keep your team's morale up and made sure that your organization was focused on the mission that you have right in front of you?
I think that's a great question. Like Dorothea said, it's about purpose. And there's been, those who've been in this industry for a long time know what the critical role is that we all play in moving the world's economy, moving people and goods, right? But now the rest of the world understands it a bit more than they did prior to this. And that has kept our people connected to what we're doing every single day. To be able to say the world is sort of falling apart around us, but we have a critical, specific role to play in helping the recovery and helping people get back to work, helping businesses stay open, helping obviously deliver important pandemic related goods where they're needed, when they're needed, is no more important. There's no more important purpose than that right now. And so our people have been really connected to that. And I think it's our job as leaders to make sure that we're communicating about that. So yes, there's a lot in the press, but there's also a lot to do internally to continue to connect the work that people are doing to those outcomes that are so important to the world right now. And so I would say it was actually a little bit easier to instill that morale and that passion during this time than even in previous times, because it's so clear. Our purpose has never been more clear. And that has really made, the difference right now to keep people coming to work every single day, doing their very best.
Steve, how did you manage to align the purpose of the organization with the purpose of each of the employees that work with you?
Well, we always start with a very good business plan that everybody feels like they were the co-author. So going back about 5.5 years, we asked the burning question, how would you double or triple this business in the next 5 to 7 years? What would it take to do that? Does that interest you? Let's take it one step at a time and think about a roadmap for how to build the business that way. And if everyone around the leadership table, in fact, in all the town hall meetings with employees everywhere, even if we're just doing them electronically, if we emphasize the fact that this is our plan and our purpose, and here's where we're going, and then because we have a very strong board, we were able to provide the resources and finances to put the gas in that engine. And that's why we have more than doubled the business in 5 years. And please note that I said we, because it's every single human that works for us. And we emphasize that every time we gather, every time we speak, every time we think about that person's career and how can we bring him along as the company keeps growing. So that's how it starts, Reggie. It starts with people.
Are there any specific steps or specific initiative that you introduced in your organization in the last 8 months to make sure that you carried your employees along with you in terms of the mission that you had, Dorothea? I'm typically looking at very specific examples of certain projects, certain initiatives, because it was also a time when organization began to kind of right size the organization. People actually lost the job, for example, even when they were asked to, like when they had to vacate the current job and then move on to something else, or probably without a job for some time. How did you make that transition acceptable and people are willing to kind of understand? Is there anything specific that you can talk in terms of typically a human resource initiative?
So I think it's got a lot to do with communication. So how do you even keep in touch with everybody when people are working from home, when people in the warehouse, of course, are not at home, but they need to be socially distant, and you don't have kind of the regular gatherings or offsites or just meetings where people usually connect. And so what we've really tried is to use the virtual space. And I don't mean Zoom meetings and Teams meetings also that you kind of use for your meetings, but what else can we have for an exchange? And for example, we've got an internal communication app that's a little bit like Yammer, so everybody can access it and also post their own experiences. And that was a little bit of luck that we just had done that anyways end of last year. And it's really taking up a lot of pace. And we were then adding some formats. For example, one format was called Everyday Hero. And we just posted pictures of people that were working from home and doing network planning, or being in the call center and doing pharma shipments and so on, and showing how they do it every day under those different circumstances. And or we had video interviews, because I mean, people just couldn't really meet across continents, and many people have been very focused to their everyday teams and never look beyond that. And so we had interviews with people from all over the continents actually in Zoom interviews, and it was questions from our communications people to those people at whatever station or whatever function, and then have that discussion. How does it work for you? What works well? What doesn't? And that was just kind of promoting the idea of that you can also do something a little bit social virtually, rather than just meeting agenda, next topic. And there have also been lots of initiatives like drinking a beer together after work at home, like always at home, yeah, or celebrating birthdays virtually in a team or something like that. So the effort was really there to collaborate as if you could be meeting everybody.
Jessica, like we have been covering like American Airlines and the other airlines, for example, in terms of the 1,000 cargo flight, 2,000 cargo flights of the freighters, the cargo only passenger flights, for example. These are important news, for example, but then there are thousands of people behind that. So are there any specific initiative that you actually rolled out to make sure that the people with you are the people of American Airlines Cargo are always with you to make sure that the mission is accomplished?
Yeah, that's great. So in addition to some of the things that Dorothea talked about, I think there's a couple of things. One, right away, within a few days of things really shutting down, we really said we have to work differently. The largeness of this organization, as you can imagine, with 130,000 people around the world, these big, broad, functional silos weren't going to work. There was going to need to be this really laser focus on cross-functional coordination to make things happen. And so we really reimagined the way we would work, very similar to kind of an agile sort of approach that we've all kind of transformed in terms of our technology, but really the same way. So we had a lead. We really organized ourselves in work streams. So an outcome that in the very first outcome was, how do we keep flying? What is it going to take to do to keep moving cargo when we were starting to shut down the passenger network? And that was assigned an executive sponsor, a lead, a cross-functional team from across the business to work on that specific thing, regardless of reporting lines, regardless of function. And people participated in that work stream, not just from their functional expertise, but just we picked the people that were not only well suited from a function, but also just talent. So how do you just build a team that's completely laser focused on making sure we move as quickly as possible to get it to happen? And it was incredible. So that model expanded into the rest of, we're still working in that approach where we now have, call it 15 to 17 different work streams. We have what we call a stand-up every few days of the leads of all of those work streams, all different kinds of outcomes that are from our clean commitment on the passenger side to all the different things that we're doing for health and safety, as well as all the things that we're doing in the cargo world. And so that has broken down a lot of the more traditional, slower ways of working, right? And I think that's here to stay. You look back and go, why weren't we working that way before? And I think we were to some extent, but there was still very traditional ways of working that made us a little bit, slower. So that's one thing that we did right away, was to just say we have to work differently. The speed to make decisions with half the information that we're used to was critical. The other piece that I'd say is we really tried to work on, it's not about expertise. It's about your ability to learn really fast and use that learning to make decisions really quickly. And so we have a platform internally called Degreed. It's a phenomenal platform. I would strongly encourage people to check it out. We instituted it about a year and a half ago. And man, if we could have predicted the need for the platform, it's basically like a social platform, but for learning. So if I read a McKinsey article, I can, at a click of a button, post it, comment on it, and share it with specific groups that we've formulated. And it makes learning, if Dorothea sends me an article, I'm more likely to read it because she has said, hey, I read this and gosh, it sure is relevant. Versus, most of us do our combing, at night or in first thing in the morning through the headlines and through all the different media channels. It's been an incredible platform for us to share not only interesting things related to our business, but just the idea that we're a learning organization, that the talent, it used to be expertise. So this industry is known for having just incredible decades worth of knowledge in people. And that's all good, and that's all still really important. But the most important sort of talent right now is your ability and speed to learn and apply that to these unknowns. We don't have playbooks for some of the things that we're dealing with now. And so that adaptability, that learning approach has really been a part of the way we've navigated through this situation. The last thing I'll say, I'm sure Steve has some things to add too, is just like Dorothea said, the connection. So we do use our video platforms for what we call town halls. And we did town halls before, but we're finding that we're reaching more and more and deeper into the organization through these platforms. And I don't see that going away. I walked around Philly a couple of days ago, our Philadelphia station, with our airport leader. And I had a frontline team member was walking by and he said, hey, Jim, when's your next town hall? That is exactly the kind of engagement that we want and need in our facilities around the globe. So what that says to me is there's this desire for connection and communication that in the old days, 10 months ago, we relied on sort of in person and valued that in-person piece. And now we have a way to reach more people more often. And I think we instituted it as a way to communicate really quickly and broadly during this, crisis. But I think it's here to stay. I think there's going to be a hybrid of in-person and video capabilities. I did a town hall a couple weeks ago with our Chicago station, and they had cameras and just their phones and laptops down on the terminal floor. Now the forklifts pulled up and listened in and asked questions, and that just didn't happen before. It's been incredible. So I would say those are 2 or 3 things that I've seen us do differently now, and hope that a lot of it stays.
That's perfectly correct, because I do see that there's a lot more of useful information that comes out in the social media channels. For example, in the last 8 months, for example, there are a lot of people share information which are useful. And I do agree with what Jessica said. If Dorothea suggests a particular piece of information, it's likely that I tend to kind of consume that information. Steve, in one of the recent keynotes, you said people are the secret weapon, and you are the CEO, but then you call yourself as the Chief Encouragement Officer. How do you keep the people encouraged and people motivated in ACL?
Well, ACL Air Shop, like many suppliers to airlines and air cargo companies, is a medium-sized business. We have several hundred people, but we're quite spread around the world. So when you think about how to lead, manage, and motivate that type of organization, we were already communicating in very aggressive ways around the whole world before COVID. Our organization has been likened to the energy of an ant hill. Think about it, if you touch an ant hill like that, the whole hill goes, okay? And that sort of describes our speed of responsiveness, which came out in a customer survey. You people are just maniacs about fast response. So in terms of what COVID has done to that, and I'll get to your question in just a minute about chief encouragement. We were already doing numerous video communications, phone conferences, town hall meetings, et cetera, et cetera. The leaders throughout the organization strongly encouraged to keep the information flowing up and down. And that was very helpful these last 5 years of rather dramatic transformation and growth. How to achieve all that without breaking any glass and hopefully without breaking any hearts. And so far, so good. That's what has happened. So our organization does not have the enormous resources of an airline, although we have a very strong board. So the point is this: it was fantastic when we started 5 years ago. It's better today. And I think it has a lot to do with the people factor. And when I think of the role of any CEO, it's not just chief executive officer. Yes, I call it also chief encouragement officer, to bring people along and to show them where we're going and how we're going to get there. So there's clarity of purpose, clarity of mission. I also think of myself as the chief people officer. I mean, I'm not an HR manager, but in many ways I am, aren't I? Aren't we all at this level in our careers, people officers? What about quality officers? In an organization that has FAA and EASA regulations, shouldn't the people at the top be the chief quality officer and compliance advocate as well? And last but not least, I don't mind saying that some people have called me the head cheerleader. And you know why? Because all of us in our organization love what we're doing. We love the industry, and we love where we're going as a company. So it is my privilege to be the chief encouragement officer, to help people come along in their careers, to perform better than they thought they might be able to give them the resources, training, and general support to get there, and also to celebrate them, even with small successes. Celebrate all the little successes around the company, because it builds momentum. It builds, again, that high performance culture that's very hard to quantify. You can't put a financier's magnifying glass to it, but it sure is valuable.
Thanks, Steve. Let me come to an important topic, which is the innovation part of it. I think what we have seen in the last 8 months is a lot of innovation. Maybe that we've been pushed to kind of make innovation a kind of a habit for us in the last 8 months because of the situation that we are in. Innovation and transformation of our processes cannot happen without getting people on board. And I think in my conversation with all three of you, I think all three of you are strong advocates of technology transformation, digital transformation. But you never have ignored the people factor when it comes to transforming your organization. Like to get each one of you to comment on the way that you began to roll out transformation within your organization, and taking people as an important, a critical factor when it comes to transformation, digital transformation of your organization. Dorothea?
Well, I think when you work on digital transformation, it always comes along with projects, and you've got this and that project going live at a certain point in time. And of course, it helps to have good training around the new tool or software or whatever it is, and making people familiar with this. But on the other hand side, it's kind of the old style of doing it, because it's kind of headquarter does something for you, and you're supposed to kind of adopt it, and it's not invented by you, so you've got some people not liking it so much. There may be people fearing about their job security, because I mean, the more you automate, the less you need people doing some of those very repetitive tasks. So 2 years ago, we thought, like, what could be another or an additional approach to doing it? I mean, having a project and training on the new topic and so on makes a lot of sense, and you should always keep it. But what we started 2 years ago was that we searched for volunteers in the organization. And that was really, it was kind of a post saying, hey, who of you would like to help us go that digital way? And we look for you as co-designer for some of the projects, but we also look for you if you want to gain momentum within the cargo community, and you want to make other people adopt what you know already. It's also got a lot to do with this peer-to-peer learning, as Jessica was just saying about the sharing documents. It's very similar. If my colleague tells me this new tool really works, or I like it, or that's good about it, it's really different than when management tells you, please use this new tool, it's great. Yeah. And so for 1 year, people volunteer and they set their own targets and goals. That's really different to how we usually work, because otherwise it's management deciding on the priorities and targets and breaking that down. So it's a group of people who decide for themselves what they want to do. And it's people that often feel that they don't have so much of a voice. They're just kind of these small people somewhere in the system, and aren't they just kind of the working bees rather than really somebody with a voice or somebody to be heard. And we're now starting into the 3rd year, and the response of the volunteers is really great because it's hugely motivational for them. And it's at the same time very good for the company because they tell you what doesn't work right at the customer interface. They tell you where systems have still their bugs and don't fully fulfill what they promised. They know what helps them reduce workload in tasks that just are there, but processes could be improved. And so I think that's been a very nice way to hear more from people working at some part in the organization, whatever station, to have motivated people raise their voice and to contribute to this larger thing. So for us, that has really worked well, and it's something that I want to continue as well.
Thanks, Dorothea. Jessica, I know we had a lot of conversation on the digital transformation. You can have the best of the technology. You can employ and implement artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning. At the end of the day, these are to be managed to some extent by human beings, for example. So when you look at that transformation process, you were a person who advocated that you need to have a mindset change, without which it becomes extremely difficult to roll out the digital transformation process. And in your role, you've been like rolling out one of the most critical rollout of a digital transformation at American Airlines. Tell us the importance of that mindset change in your organization to achieve that digital transformation that you have in mind for American Airlines Cargo.
Well, I think Dorothea touched on it a little bit, and Steve, I loved the way you say the team co-authored your business plan. I've, if anybody that's been involved in change management, one of the first things you learn about is buy-in. I hate that phrase. And I'll tell you why I hate it, because I think of a car salesman. I'm going to sell you a car and I'm going to tell you all the reasons you need it. And I'm going to convince you to buy it, and you buy it. And the first time something isn't what you expected, or something isn't working, I blame you. It is absolutely different to have ownership. So I use the word ownership. So co-authored, my word for that is ownership. You have to figure out a way that it is our journey, our plan, and when things go wrong, it is ours to figure out how to navigate and fix and improve. It's not, oh God, headquarters, these are all the things that are wrong with it, go fix it. That was one of the most important things to us when we started. Gosh, it's been almost over 5 years ago, when we knew we had already failed. A decade or so before, we tried to do the same thing, replace the 90 some odd systems that ran our business, and we failed. And so in the very beginning, when we came through the bankruptcy and then the merger, and we're finally profitable and ready to invest, one of the biggest conversations we had was, we failed our people in the past. We did not make it work. So how are we going to do it this time differently? How are we going to deliver on what we've promised our team, our award-winning team, who wins awards with one hand tied behind their back with these 40-year-old systems? How are we going to do it differently? And from the very beginning, it was about making sure that it was our journey, not some technology project, not some, it's end of service life, or we've got to go implement this thing. It was, we have got to work differently to meet the needs of our customers. And there are so many great tools that can help us do that. And you're going to be part of developing what our vision is, developing what it is, describing and designing what it is we need. And you're going to be part of figuring out how to go do this. For us, it was, about a 3-year journey from the time we contracted with IBS to the time that we just finished our final deployment back in August with the final, our mail operations and mail accounting modules. But it was an incredible effort. When I think of, I've been asked the question of how many people were involved. Our entire organization was involved, from the very beginning. And you say, how do you involve, 8,000 some odd people around the world? We figured out a way to do it. And there was not a moment, even in the very beginning days of our very first go live, which was the major cutover in October of 2019, everybody was ready for whatever was going to happen. And we knew it wasn't going to go perfectly. And we had the mindset embedded, because we had worked on it, that it is on all of us. We're in it together. We're here to support each other through it. And whatever comes our way, what our strength is as a team is being a family and being here for each other. And we're going to put that strength to work. So one of the big things around change that I've talked about in the past is whatever your strength is as a culture, you have to zero in on that and leverage the hell out of it when you have these huge change initiatives. And one of our biggest cultural strengths is just we take care of each other. That is what we do. And so we knew that was going to be the key to making sure this giant transformation and all of the pain that comes with that, we were going to be ready to support each other through it. And so those are some of the things that I think of when I think of the team.
Steve?
Yes, to your question about technology and implementing through people, I think we offer a good example. ACL Airshop is a technology-enabled logistics partner for airlines and air cargo organizations. And we try to keep it simple, and yet its technology is quite advanced. 3 years ago, it started as a decision back then to partner with a technology company because we were beginning to grow the network quite aggressively. And in fact, when you grow quickly, you have to be careful that you don't spin out on the corners too fast. So accelerated growth and grow the network was what our customer survey said, that's what we would really love for you to do. We like you in 20 cities, we'll like you more in 40 cities, now we're in 53, and we're continuing to grow. But how do you do that? Behind that headline of grow the network, there are hundreds and hundreds of subtasks. And at the senior level of the company and then cascading down through the ranks, we recognized and acknowledged that we had to lace intelligent technologies throughout what we were doing in terms of systems and processes, and also to offer that to customers so we could help them be more efficient in terms of time, the size and configuration of their ULD fleet, and the overall efficiency of what they were doing. Save them time and money, show them how it works, and then usually make it virtually cost-free. But how do you do that through people? Well, I said to the guys, guys, I'm a little bit of a technology klutz. I'm maybe a little old school. Okay, so can we make it so simple that everybody can understand it? I mean, if the overall strategy is grow the network, everybody understands that. But how do you translate that to find my ULD? I'm holding up my phone right now because right now, this is not a gimmick. Right now on my phone, I can pop up every one of our stations and numerous customer stations as well and tell you the current status of every single ULD that's on the Find My ULD system. Now, that's pretty interesting because it only started 3 years ago. We were first in market with that approach towards systematizing everything, applying it to the ULD fleets, and working on efficiency, cost savings, and speed, and have it real time so that it's in your pocket. No more clipboards out there flipping through where are those pallets and so forth. Have it automated, have it real time, and have it tie into an overall ops center system that allows us to control our own network more efficiently and to assist customers who join us on that system to be more efficient with what they're doing. And it even spills over into our shops. We implemented new repair station software. You saw me pick up this magazine. Can you see the guys on the front cover there? That's 2 of our repairmen in our Netherlands repair shop using the new technology of how all the repair shops now sing together in a good chorus of technology improvement, accountability, parts management, et cetera, for the repair functions that we handle. So in repairs, with a new ERP system upgrade for all of the financial and ops architecture, a worldwide ops center in Amsterdam. It's working beautifully for numerous customers now. And the Find My, a new system called ULD Control, which we can offer as a service with customers. And then from there, it began advancing with tracking and tracing, Bluetooth, these new systems like this. And I must tell you, even though I'm old school, these systems are so easy, even a CEO can do it. And it's all about helping those people do a better job and listening to our customers so we can help them be more efficient. It's working, we love it, and we're going to keep investing in that every single year going forward as our technology roadmap. And our people think it's making their jobs more interesting, more efficient, and professionally more enjoyable.
Just a quick comments from each one of it. Do you encounter some of your employees coming up when you have this large scale adoption of technology rolling out of digital transformation? Have you come across some of your colleagues, some of your employees coming up to you worried about their future in terms of will they lose the job? Is that something that you come across? Because I remember a few years back, 2 years back, I was at Lufthansa Cargo warehouse in Frankfurt. Practically, there is absolutely no touch points. Everything is automated. So is there a fear among your employees that they would lose job? Is that something that as leaders you come across, Dorothea?
Yes, of course. I mean, digitalization sounds perfect from headquarters in terms of customer experience, but also cost position and these kinds of things. And it doesn't always sound perfect for those people who fear that their jobs might be gone. So I think that's very much part of the discussion around the transformation. So what's next for me in my position? And I think we've got a very good track record that in many cases we've been able to reduce staff by fluctuation, by voluntary leavers and so on, and not by really laying people off. And again, right now we're becoming more efficient, we're automating more, but we do it in a socially good way. And I think if you somehow have a chance to go this long-term path and you know how much you reduce people and it somehow works with a socially good measures, I think then you have, of course, a higher, not buy-in, but ownership, for transformation when people feel it's not done on their backs, but together with them and also to make their jobs more interesting. And I think that's kind of one of the arguments you bring for transformation, to say, well, aren't some of those things that are now being automated, haven't these been the most boring tasks that you had? I mean, we're not automating solution finding with customers. We're not automating the proactive sales calls. We're not automating the things where you really need a person, but we're automating this copy something from an email into the booking system and do this kind of job. So of course, it doesn't always work. It's not always right, but I think to quite a large extent, if you have a good perspective on how jobs will develop, then you've got a good way to get people really feeling they also own that transformation.
Reggie, may I add
Steve?
to that, please?
Yeah.
I don't think it's about losing jobs when you implement technologies. For these folks in our repair shops, we said, look, we're growing so quickly, we're getting so much more input that we have to become more efficient. We're going to help you work faster and smarter and still be completely compliant with all the FAA and EASA rules. It'll be more efficient on our inventory and spare parts and so forth. Are you kidding? We're not going to eliminate your jobs. We need to find more technicians because that business segment is growing. In like fashion, for all the folks that are working in places where we manage and deploy ULD inventory, heck no, we're not going to eliminate your job. You used to do that job with a clipboard and a whiteboard on the wall. Now, when you go around the yard or around the warehouse and you're barcoding everything into your pocket like this, Steve's got it in less than 30 seconds. So we're growing the business so we can add more service to our customers. So in no way have we ever signaled that, hey, we're doing all these things because the secret plan is we're going to eliminate some jobs. We don't do that. In the 23 years since I've had the privilege of being a CEO for these various Ranger enterprises over the years, we just don't do layoffs. We grow the business and we do these types of things to enhance the business, enhance customer service, make it a better place to work, and add jobs.
Jessica?
Yeah, I'm right in line with what Steve just said, which is the only way to grow is to implement these types of technologies so that the human energy can be spent on the things that humans are good at. Like Dorothea said, problem solving, the relationships that are necessary to make business happen. So I would say, though, with big change initiatives, transparency is really important. So, we had the single largest investment in the history of American Airlines in our cargo business. So when you're investing millions of dollars in a business, there are returns you signed up for. We had detailed spreadsheets on the expectations, not only in sunsetting systems, but where we were going to find efficiencies, what practices we were going to stop doing, what contractors and business partners we would no longer need because we were able to do things. And so transparency to me and those benefits that you expect is really important. We did say we were going to be more efficient. And it did mean that we were going to, over time, have less in some roles so that other roles could grow. And that transparency is really important to people so that they don't believe that we're up to some, magic thing behind the scenes, some secret plan to eliminate people. The work, like Dorothea said, the type of work was going to shift, and we were really transparent about that. We had jobs that literally went away, and behind that job is a human who's been doing that job. And you don't get to just say, oh, don't worry about your job. We were transparent from the very beginning. We're no longer going to need that particular role. So we are going to be committed to reskilling, retooling towards these other jobs that are created because of this innovation, and worked same commitment that Steve and Dorothea said. We either did it through voluntary or attrition, but we also worked hard to move people into roles where we could really capitalize on their human skills. And that was something we were transparent about from the very beginning.
I'd like to add one other word to that, if I may, Reggie. Transparency, yes. Very important. Transparency and authenticity from the top, so important. But I'm going to add another word, and that's speed. Our entire air cargo industry depends on on-time deliveries, on-time performance, speed of execution, et cetera. As a supplier to airlines and air cargo companies, speed was one of our most important aspects. And when we started this transformation and growth process 5 years ago, we said we have to stay very speedy in terms of responsiveness, internal systems, all of our processes, all of our deliverables internally and externally. And that doesn't happen by just snapping your fingers. That happens with better systems, better processes, more technologies, and implementing it on a deliberate and steady basis. We didn't have a one-year technology plan. We had a permanent technology plan. We're investing over a period of time, literally millions of dollars in new technologies and systems and processes and people and training and so forth. It all plays together, in my opinion. But like transparency, like taking care of your people, I think that in our industry especially, speed is an absolute competitive advantage. And if an organization has a reputation for speed, I don't mean haste, but speed, that's a big plus. So we really focused on that as a big headline. Airlines expect speedy performance, speedy execution, speedy responsiveness. So we've become very committed to that. We measure our responsiveness, as I've said, I think to you, Reggie. I think I said that to you in Mumbai. We measure our responsiveness in minutes and hours, not days or weeks.
Thanks, Steve. We have a few more minutes left before we wind up this session. I'd like to touch upon the last topic of the discussion on the diversity. I think diversity as a theme, or diversity in the workplace, is a theme that is actually has to go with the people, the subject that we are talking. I just want each one of you to share your thoughts in terms of the importance of diversity in the workplace and how this is so complementary to our theme, people for transformation and sustainable future. Just want to pull up an illustration, and you can have a look at that. And then I would want you to respond to the question of importance of diversity in your organization now. Okay, if you can see that. Okay, Dorothea, you want to go ahead in terms of the importance of diversity in your organization?
Well, I think we're a global company, so it's important to have people from different countries, different gender, different age, to just give their perspective. And diversity can even mean that within a company, you work in the field organization for some part, and then you go back to headquarters. And that also means that you change perspective a lot. And I think having different perspectives contribute to a whole picture just makes sure that you haven't missed out on some important factors. Like here, I mean, it's so easy to let the child also look across the fence. And have we thought about it? It's not a big issue. And of course, somebody else can be happy in this one. Yeah.
Jessica?
Yeah, I think perspectives is a great word, Dorothea. I think when I think of diversity, I think of coverage of perspective. So there's the diversity that we can see, right? Race, gender, those types of things. But there's a whole lot of diversity we can't see. And so getting to know people and their experiences. I work with a woman who's lived in 9 different countries. You think of the wealth of information and creativity that comes with someone like that. Yes, she's female, great, that's nice. But the richness of her experiences are what bring to the table creativity and problem solving, perspectives that maybe someone else has never thought of. She might be the person at the table that says, just add a freaking box over there to that little guy, right? So where the rest of us didn't even think of that. So to me, it is about coverage of ideas and experiences. And it's so important that your diversity initiatives don't stop at the surface, that you've got to, I love the example of field and headquarters, right? The empathy that is created by living in those different experiences, when you can bring those different things together, is absolutely key to creativity and problem solving that businesses need.
Steve?
Yes, when I think of diversity, I would say this: talent has no boundaries. I'll say it again: talent has no boundaries. No gender boundaries, no national boundaries. Talent is talent, and talent is a very precious resource. If you take a look at the 3 people observing that game, they all wanted to observe the game, and they all had a lot of enthusiasm for it, and somebody enabled all of them to enjoy the game. In like fashion, let me offer you a very fast profile on 6 of our best managers. Now, around the world, we have talent in depth. We really do. We are blessed with very strong bench strength. The organization has grown and evolved in such a way that it will continue to scale up aggressively because we have such deep talent. 6 people, I'll name them. I'll give you a short profile on each. Asako Mizuno. Miss Mizuno is one of our best general managers in Narita, Tokyo. In a male-dominated society over there in Japan, she is absolutely outstanding. Vivian Yip is our logistics manager in Hong Kong, the busiest cargo airport in the world. She's been there for years. She's fantastic. She is a one-person army for moving logistics in a very, very brilliant way there. Let's not forget Juliette Quetters in Dubai. She is a one-person office, and she's managing more in and out from that centralized region of the world than any 3 or 4 people could do otherwise. Elena Lagende in Amsterdam is our senior manager for global leasing of ULD fleets. She knows more about Find My ULD than I will ever learn. She's been in the company over 10 years, and she is one of the linchpins in our organization. Halima Hodzik in Chicago O'Hare, almost 20 years in the industry, 18 years in one of our competitor companies, and several years now with us. She is so good that we featured her at trade shows and also in magazine profiles. And last but not least, Reggie, you know Candace Spradlin. Candace Spradlin is the senior manager for corporate communications and marketing throughout the organization, including all of the Ranger operations. I must say, she won an award a couple of years ago as best and brightest in our community. And all of these folks that I just named and other managers, dozens of other managers, are also the best and brightest in their peer class, in my opinion. So it's all about diversity. It's all about people. You can tell we emphasize that every single day as we try to grow this business.
Thanks. The reason I pull up this illustration is just to highlight equality versus equity. because you can't have a cookie cutter approach to everyone. You need to treat each one with a as individuals. And I think, as Jessica said, you would actually realize the potential of each individual if you talk to that person and understand that person. It's not just what you see. With that, we are almost towards the end of it. I would like to turn it back to Celine for the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Steve and Stephen. It was a great session. Lots of takeaways from the discussion. The importance of people is vital for the sustainable transformation of the air cargo industry. I think this COVID crisis has shown also the importance not only on investing in people and having people really feeling the purpose of what they are doing, but also recognizing the frontline heroes that we have, and it was long overdue. We very often and for quite some years in the past really focused on the future leaders of the air cargo industry, and very rarely we focused on the frontline heroes. And I think at least this COVID pandemic gives us this opportunity to recognize their importance. At TIACA, with the boards, with myself, and also the team and our future Director General, Glyn, people is something that is really a big focus and a big commitment. So what I'd like to just end with is that TIACA is committed to support the development of people in the air cargo industry, committed to trainings, and we are building up some training portfolio on issues like safety, but there are more coming on young generation that needs also to have some mentorship and development programs. We started a program that we called SWAP for the young talents in the air cargo industry, but we had to put it on hold due to the pandemic and the travel restrictions. But it's really something that we want to move further, and we'd like to support all the programs that exist and do something more for those frontline workers, the frontline heroes of air cargo. So without anything more than that, I'd like to really thank you once again for this great session. I'm very sure that it has inspired many of the participants. I can see on the chat box some of the comments that it's really also inspiring to have leaders like you and to work for people that really put people at the center of their strategy. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you
very much.
Goodbye, everyone. See you tomorrow at the sustainability webinar, because people is also part of the sustainable strategy of a company. So we continue that discussion tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.